everybody. What is going on? My name's Justin Julander, if you didn't know, and here with me in Cyberland is Mr. Chuck Boland. What is going on, Chuck?
Oh my gosh. How are you?
Oh man, I'm a little tired. Looks like you are too.
I am super tired.
That's all right. That means we're working hard, right? Or hardly
That's
working.
Right.
No, like that.
Working hard.
Yeah. Oh, I got final reports due. All sorts of people breathing down my neck for reports and such. Yeah.
I need my data.
Exactly. Yep. The data you sent wasn't in the format I wanted it in.
Exactly.
Send it.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah. Fun. Well, what's going on in Snakeland?
Not much.
Same
Snakes. Yeah, so snakes outside for Hurricane Hillary.
Did you survive?
Non-event. Yeah, it was a very non-event down here. So
at least where you were, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know. I heard Ocotillo and even a lot of that high desert area around there got hit pretty bad with flooding and stuff. So like flash flooding. So
saw some stuff up around Palm Springs,
Palm Springs hit it. It's weird. It seems like it went in and got the desert real bad. Mm-hmm. So,
well, hopefully it's good for the desert. You know what I mean? Like hopefully,
for sure.
In the long term, it'll benefit the wildlife, and we'll see an uptick. I'd like to get out there again soon, but dang, there's just so many places to herp. You know what I mean?
I do.
That place is one of my favorites, though. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'll ever be able to replicate the season I had out there when we had Herpeton out there. I went out herping just kind of on my own. I just ditch out the meetings early and head out into the desert to herp and saw a ton of stuff. Man, our trip out there was pretty dang good too with the NPR crew. And
well, someday you could have a proper trip and go out with Jeff Lim and let the master show you how it's done.
Yeah,
there you go.
Well, I don't know that he'll take me out. I don't know.
That's true.
I'm not. He did take me out herping once, but we didn't go out to the desert. It was just kind of.
He also sold you up the river for a spot too.
He did.
Yeah, wasn't that a spot? That spot. So remember when I was picking up crickets and I saw you and and Eric and you guys had said like you had just come from a spot. Wasn't Lem the guy who gave you that?
Oh yeah,
and there was totally nothing there. And,
well, it was,
or at one time maybe
there up or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I forgot about that.
But we were joking that Lem gave you a bogus spot.
He lemmed us.
He lemmed you. Yeah.
Nah, Jessica guy.
Nah, yeah.
He does find a lot of good stuff though.
He sure does.
I haven't
had
a Jeff day out there before, but yeah.
I think his son might even be better at it than he is.
Yeah, but he went that fisherman route. He kind of lost interest in the herping and went fishing.
Did he?
Yeah,
San Diego is good for that too.
Oh yeah. I no fault with that.
No.
Yeah.
However you spend your days.
Right. Yeah. I never got into fishing that much. Heidi really likes to fish. She got into it a bit. I said, "How about I herp while you fish? How's that sound?"
My cousin and I did some deep sea fishing, and then my cousin and I made kind of a thing. Every time he comes out, we go deep sea fishing. So
nice.
That's kind of fun. I like that. So.
The Utah boys, Chris and Aspen, went went out with Keith McPeak on his boat and did some deep sea fishing.
Nice.
Oh man, Lindsay went with them as well. Lindsay and Chris, of course. Very cool gal, but she's like the real deal fisher woman. So yeah, she probably showed them all up, I'm sure. Just like she does in herping.
Wow. Yeah.
She's a good herper, so yeah.
Sweetness. So let's see. Yeah, non-event hurricane, no problem there. Yeah, man, everything else is good.
Cool.
Yeah, just I'm trying to get this coastal clutch that I had this year feeding. They're being stubborn. So I don't know. I may have to start. But I've been like trying to train and stuff, so I just really haven't been like trying to like focus my energy on it too much. I've just been trying to drop like live fuzzies in there and switch. I'm like, what? You're not eating? What? So they've all shed, and so I'm kind of like, last year's clutch was way easier to start. I don't know.
Don't you hate it when it does that? Like,
but you know what, dude? Like, I started complaining when half the clutch last year fed and the other half didn't, and then they all ended up feeding eventually, and it was fine. And it was like, you know what I mean? I just like it's old impatient me coming back. Like, why are these things just feeding right out of the egg? So.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Yeah, I have yet to start the inlands. Like I'm waiting for them to shed. So but hopefully they'll be as easy as last year. Last year went pretty smooth with the
fingers crossed, right?
Yeah, for sure. Oh man, you missed a good carpet fest. It was
so I feel like I needed to ask you about that. So it was good.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of fun. Not the crazy stories that you hear from previous years. It was a little more tame, which is probably good because I was there. I'm kind of the wet blanket, of the party. There wasn't.
Are you saying it was buzzkill Julender season or what?
Maybe. I probably just brought a little buzzkill with me, but
gotcha.
There was no mankini or no. It was pretty tame. Yeah,
that's good.
No,
that's good.
No voyeur shows, but anyway, it was nice and tame for the Utah boy. So
that's good.
But it was fun. It was really cool to catch up with some people, and I had some really nice conversations with some people I hadn't never met in person. Few that I had it was good to see again, and it was really a fun show. So I mean.
And did somebody show up with an animal despite not being told not to show up with animals?
Only the ones that were bringing them for Eric. So that was the exception to the rule.
I got you. All right.
Owen still tried to stop him. He's like, hey, what are you doing?
Hey, what is this?
Eric told us to. I don't care. Get those out of here.
Get it out. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so me and Rob rolled in a couple days early. So we got there on Wednesday afternoon. Nice. And so we did a little herping in the rain, found a few amphibians, not too much. But it was cool. They were American toads, and one was really dark and cool looking. I like toads. They're fun. So that was cool to see. And then both those, or I mean, a lifer. I hadn't seen American toads before in the wild.
Right.
And then we saw bullfrogs, so I've obviously seen those, but they're invasive everywhere, which is kind of a little teaser for our topic. And then but other than that, I got a few new bird species out there. So I know most people don't care about that, but it was fun to add I think I added. Now,
I think they would care if they could see the smile in your face right now.
There you go. They can hear it in my voice.
They should.
I think I added more herp species than bird species, though, for new lifers for me. So that was cool.
Way to keep it classy. Thank you, Julian.
Right as we got to Eric's house, we flipped a log in his backyard, and there was a garter snake. So eastern garter snake tick. I mean, I've seen Sirtalis, but hadn't seen that subspecies, the eastern. So
did Eric run right to the rock and go, "Oh my, what's under this?" and flip it over?
It was the first one we flipped, or maybe it wasn't the first one, but it was pretty quick after. Yeah, just like in his little flipping pile in the back of his yard.
Runs right to it. It's like,
exactly. Yeah.
Look what I found.
And his house, his yard borders like a creek or a river. Probably. Nice. Small river for them, but it was a very big river for Utah. But it was so he's got that in his backyard. And I think Rob Christian went out there and found like a slider that was on the bank or something. And it was one that Eric had seen before that was kind of cruising around in his backyard at one point. It had like a chunk out of its shell or something. But yeah, so we did a little herping that day. Got up the next day, went out to the Pine Barrens, got absolutely skunked on reptiles until Eric spotted a eastern fence lizard. And that was another lifer for me. And we got plenty plenty of ticks though, so that was fun. I think Rob picked off 150 off of his legs when we drove from the Pine Barrens over to Delaware to a copperhead spot. And then we got skunked at, well, we didn't see any reptiles at the copperhead spot, but we got a toad there, so that was cool. And then we headed back home kind of in defeat. It was a pretty rough day with the herping in the barrens. It's pretty barren, I guess, in some ways. It was pretty barren in herp life that day, but it was fun to get out, at least see new habitat, get a lot of ticks. Apparently I got a bunch of chiggers too, because now my feet are covered in bumps and itchy, and that's been fun. So East Coast herping, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't get that out west. No chiggers.
I was just going to say.
Very few ticks.
Yep.
Yeah. Today we were supposed to have our special guests, but there's been a few things came up. I guess
things
it was supposed
happened.
to be, we were supposed to record last week, I think, but that was the week before Daytona, and our special guest realized that he was going to Daytona and
he double booked.
So he double booked. Now he's like, it's a little crazy, the week before and the week after Daytona. Yeah. So, but we'll have him come on soon, and then we'll have the two special guests come on in a month or two. There's been some more things that have occurred that have delayed that a little bit. So sorry for the teaser before, but we will have them eventually. Not that you care because you don't know who they are, but needless to say, it will be a good one. After we herped the Pine Barrens and that spot in Delaware, we went back to Eric's and got all our tick bites, soothed with a shower or whatnot, and maybe a dip in Eric's pool. He has a great yard. And then the next day was the Carpet Fest. And it was pretty well attended, probably 100 or so people, maybe 75. Nice. Oh, the night before Carpet Fest, we were hanging out, and I guess Eric's wife Dory went out back and found a little baby ringneck snake, and she thought it was like a worm. It was very tiny, like really small, and Eric's like, no, that's a snake. And she's like, oh, I see him out here all the time. He's like, what? This was the first one that he's seen. So he was like, what the heck? I guess I need to go outside more. And so, he brought that in. The thing was just absolutely tiny, but that was another new one. At least
that's pretty cool.
That subspecies, I'd seen the ringnecks down in San Bernardino or whatever, Orange County. And then, Eric's reptile room was off limits, so we didn't get a...
Right.
Yeah, he didn't make any exceptions there either, so that was nice. So he was out during the whole Carpet Fest, hanging out with people. He did some grilling, getting some burgers going and stuff, so that was a lot of fun.
Nice.
And then, I forgot to mention on the way out to the Pine Barrens, there was a turtle in the middle of the road.
Turtle!
We're all turtles. So Eric pulled over. I ran out, grabbed it off the road just before a huge truck came around the corner. Would have smashed it pretty good. So
Steve's proud of you.
Yep, Steve loves those turtles, man. You can't keep him from talking about them. But it was a pretty little thing, just crossing over. There was a little swampy area where he was headed for, so we helped him over and he took off there. But it was another new species for me. So it's cool to see. You don't usually get to see turtles unless you're out there in the water tromping around looking for them. So, and I think this was kind of late in the year to see a lot of turtle life or something. But but Carpet Fest was a blast. We had good food.
Did you get your shirt?
Came and he brought his mojito chicken, which was fantastic. We did find a wood frog at that Delaware spot, so another new species. But it was cool. Mike Curtin brought a bunch of oysters, and he was cracking oysters. We were having oysters on the half shell. He brought some stuffed oysters. No lobster or crab or anything. So Nick Scally was slacking a bit. I think he fed the Utah boys and Keith and everybody lobster the night before Carpet Fest. So I'll have to rat him out here, but he's a good guy. don't let him fool you. No matter what you see or hear with your own eyes and ears. No, he's a great guy. It was fun catching up with Nick. Nick Mutton and Ryan Young came out from the West Coast. It was a good crowd there. Caught up with Eric Kohler a bit. That was fun to chat with him. He's a cool guy. He's bred a lot of cool species. I think he just got Gila monsters. He's one of those impressive breeders. I wish we could have gone out herping with him too. He has some good spots out in central PA, but next time, I guess. It was really, really just a great time chatting with everybody. I got to see Zach Baez's photos of his trip to Namibia and Galapagos, and holy crap, man, that guy can take some good pictures, and he saw some amazing stuff out there. So I think he said they saw 9 species of viper, the Bitus.
Wow.
Just out there. Yeah, pretty crazy. But yeah, it's always good to catch up with people and meet people in person that you've only met online, I guess. And put a face and to a name.
Put a powerlifting glove to a face.
There you go.
That's right.
Yeah. The night before, Nick and Ryan had got in, and then Han came in from Canada, so he was in from up above Seattle, BC, I guess. So he was out, probably the farthest one to travel in. So, and then the night before, we just kind of hung out and chatted. It was a good time. Cool. What else to say? It was great. Then the next day we went out with Mike Curtin out to the Pine Barrens again, but this time we had much better luck.
Nice.
So we got there a little late. We forgot to bring Mike Curtin's hat, and so that was kind of a funny story too, because he had left it the night before during Carpet Fest, left it on the table, and so we left, and then we're like, oh crap, Mike's hat. So we went back, and he said, oh, if anybody sees my burgundy cap, and Eric and Owen were looking around for, they weren't sure what that meant.
They were like, okay.
Yeah. And I'm like, maybe he means his hat, his burgundy hat. And so I went and found a burgundy baseball cap, and I'm like, I saw him wearing this. This must be what he's talking about. They're like, oh yeah, of course, a burgundy hat. Why did we think it would be something else? But, so we had to go back for that, so we were a little bit later. And Chris and Aspen, we met up with Chris Aspen and Lindsay, and so we got there a little late. And they were giving Nick Scally a bad time because he wasn't there, and I guess he hasn't seen a timber in the Pine Barrens, and so that was kind of one of the main targets there. And of course, we on the way, we're almost there, and they're like, oh, we just found 2 timbers. We're like, oh, crap, drive faster. And so... we missed seeing those. They'd kind of gone down a hole before we could get there and check them out. And you're not allowed to manipulate them or anything.
Right.
So, we kept to the rules and tried to be really respectful of the animals, that kind of thing. They were so we got there a little late, and so they were bragging to Nick Scally about finding timbers, without him. Like, oh, you should have been here. We found the timbers. And meanwhile, we found out Nick he drank a little bit, and so he was going to crash in his car. I'm like, oh, talk to Eric. He'll put you up in his house. You can sleep at least indoors. And so, I don't know where he ended up sleeping. But then the next morning he was out there cleaning up the yard and just being an all around good guy. So,
nice.
So then he gets these texts from Mike Curtin bragging about how, we found this is where you would have been. If you would have been here, you would have been able to see these timbers. And then Nick said, I thought you might say that. And then he sent a picture of him holding Mike's hat over his nude body in a strategic location.
Man.
We're like, oh, there's the Nick Scally. We know.
Man.
So... that was pretty good. He thought that out well. Even with a bit of a hangover the next morning. So, I'm like, that was a good move there, Nick. Now and everybody's like, "Oh man, what did I do with my hat last night?" He's got a huge photo roll of everybody's hats. Yeah, just let him say anything to me. Yeah, he'll hear this and he'll pop up with a picture of my hat or something. But that was funny. So
hide your hats, folks. Hide your hats.
After we got there late, didn't get to see the timber, so we're hiking around, saw a bunch of cool stuff, ribbon snake, couple different frogs and toads. Saw some what kind of toad did we see? Started with an F. Anyway, that was cool to see the ribbon snake and other garter snake species. Fowler's toad, that's what I'm trying to go for there. So Fowler's toad, ribbon snakes, and then we were going along a spot, and Mike's like, this spot I've seen him here before, and so we're kind of scanning along, and then I saw this, just looked different. I'm like, what is that? Is it like garbage? And I'm like, no, those are scales. That's a timber rattlesnake. And so there was one just curled up on the edge of a burrow, just right under this pine bough. And so
did you almost step on it?
No, but I was looking pretty close. It was kind of a hard thing to spot. So I'm like, oh, there's one right here, a timber.
I mean,
and it was
you're
a
allowed
large
to
female.
find it that way. That's how you find stuff.
Yeah, what, step on it? Or
yeah, almost.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah, that's true. So maybe it was an almost step, but I was kind of walking parallel to it, so I wouldn't call it an almost step. Not like the diamond.
In Texas. That was a non-traditional Zoolander encounter right there. Yeah. You still used eagle eyes, so we'll say that's not your. That's your secondary method, not your primary for finding rattlesnakes.
There you go. Usually, I told Mike that. I'm like, because there was a lot of chit chat and talking and stuff, and I'm like, hey, I need to walk away from everybody because I find stuff by hearing it rather than seeing it mostly. And then I spotted that. And Mike's like, "Oh, mister, I got to hear it." It's pretty funny.
Oh, no. Find a snake and everybody gets all woo.
Yeah, but it dipped down a burrow pretty quick. So I got one crappy photo of, it under this pine bough, which, it was kind of cool to see it that way. And then you could hear it rattling underneath the ground. So we're like, well, let's come back and see if that one's come out. And there was a big shed skin and stuff like that. It was pretty cool. So yeah, we kind of made our way around and then came back to the spot, and she was out, further out. And so we were able to get some pictures of her and stuff. And a big female, looked like she was gravid. So yeah, it was really cool to see that animal. And so we went to another spot and didn't really see too much after that. We saw a couple of actually we did see some good stuff. We found a really nice Fowler's toad. We went to another spot and saw I think it was a worm snake, just a little fossorial snake that Rob flipped under this big piece of chunk of concrete. And then I flipped an eastern milk snake. So
nice.
I was pretty stoked about that. It was in shed, so not it didn't have the bright popping colors, but it was a milk snake nevertheless. Yeah. And it looked like it might have had that fungal disease. So we went to great lengths. I was the only one that handled it just to make sure we weren't transferring it to other places. And then after I handled it, I used an alcohol wipe to kind of disinfect my hands and stuff. Yeah. So hopefully that, didn't go around spreading fungal disease. But unfortunately, that's a problem out in the East Coast. But that was fun to see. And then, we spent quite a bit of time photographing that. Then we went to this really cool place in the Barrens that was there was this really mossy spot. I think that it was, just perfect salamander habitat. We only found one little tiny redback salamander. It was one of the smallest amphibians I've seen. Found a couple of their frogs, leopard frogs, and a couple of scallops, the little eastern fence lizards. And then we hit that, kind of walked along that trail and came back, and there was like a bunch of police around. We're like, oh, what's going on here? And they're like, did you see a woman out there on the trails you were on? And we're like, no. And they said, oh yeah, there's a 70-year-old woman who's lost. And there were like all these cops here, and a couple of them set off into the, on the trail we just came in from. An ambulance came up and that kind of thing. So we were just kind of saying goodbye to Mike. And then all of a sudden the ambulance came zipping out. So we assume they either found her and were taking her, or they found her and the ambulance was going around to a different spot or something to pick her up. So hopefully that woman made it out safe and okay. But so then we decided to go road cruise just a little bit before we headed back. And it was me and Rob and Nick and Ryan. Mm-hmm. And we were driving along. We hit this dirt road. Saw like a turtle basking out on a log or something. And then we're going along, and Rob's like getting ready to turn around. I'm like, oh, let's just go a little further. There was another little turnaround spot, and we can turn around there. So we start coming back, and then like all hell broke loose, and everything kind of went nuts. And so we're driving along, and Rob looks over to the left, and there's like this car in the ditch or in the water, right? Like just had crashed. I mean, recently, because we didn't see it on our way through, but on our way back it was there. So it had to have happened within the last 5 minutes. And then, so he's looking over there, and we're like, and then I see a snake in the road and on the passenger side, and we're like, snake! Yes! And so Rob swerved around. It was this beautiful timber rattlesnake. So there was a place, and Rob pulled off. And so we all get out of the car, run over, take a look at the snake, and then we can hear this kid yelling, help, help, my mommy, help my mommy. And so we're like, oh crap.
God, dude.
So me and Rob, I'm like, okay, me and Rob will go see if we can help. You guys kind of stay with the snake, make sure it gets off the road safely or whatever. Excuse me. And so we go running up there, and this kid's like, my mom, don't let my mom die. She's underwater. She's going to die. Don't let her die. And we're like, holy crap. So we're going to like help save it. And there's this man, on his cell phone, like calling the cops, or he's like, I don't know what's going on. Like he's all freaking out. And apparently the guy knew the woman who had crashed. And so I go to look in the crashed car to see if I can, see the woman or assess the situation or something. And there's this lady's butt right in the way. I'm like, did she fall through the back seat? Is she like leaning over the seat? And then like, I realized it was somebody helping the woman in the front seat. So I'm like, well, I don't know what this kid's screaming about. So we go around and like, okay, your mom's fine. She's not underwater. There's somebody helping her. The cops are on their way. You'll be okay, and it's going to be okay. And then so I start like, there's nothing we can really do here. There's already somebody helping her. There's somebody calling the cops, and like, I don't know what we're going to do here. And so he kind of settled down a little bit, and then I look over and I see Nick and Ryan running up to us, and I'm like, what are you doing? Where's the snake? And they're like, well, he kept screaming, so we thought maybe, you guys needed more.
No.
Like, okay.
He got
and
you
so,
guys again.
And so, and then I hear cars coming. I'm like, oh crap. So I go running, and I'm like waving my arm to have the cars go around me so they don't hit the snake, because it's still out in the road. And I'm like, why did you leave it in the road? And so we got the cars to go around us, and the snake was safe. And then apparently while I was doing that, the woman got out of the car that was in the back seat, and she just lays into Rob and is just screaming at him, get out of here. Just leave us alone. What are you doing? Like Rob's like, okay, I was just trying to help. And so Rob's like, that's my cue to exit, stage right. So he, so they all came back over, and we were so then you've got this horrible car crash. Apparently the woman was going like 100 miles an hour on this 30-mile-an-hour dirt road, and somehow lost control of the car and then went into a ditch. And she had kids. She had that kid in the back of her car, at least the one that was, the kid's mommy. And so the people that came, they were like, oh, we told her not to drive. She was, either drunk or high or something. Christ. And so they took the kid out of the car, took the car seat out of the back of the car, and were like setting her up in a different car. And man, it was a mess. But the guy kind of told the woman to settle down, like, hey, they're just trying to help us, don't yell at them or whatever. And so, and then other cars were there coming up, and so we're like, yeah, let's just go photo. So then you're driving down the road and you see this huge wreck, and then you see 4 guys laying on the ground taking pictures of a rattlesnake. It was quite the sight, I'm sure. And one car actually kind of stopped and said, hey, is that a rattlesnake? And we're like, yeah. They said, can we check it out? And I'm like, sure. So they come over and they're watching the rattlesnake, and they were really cool. They're like, oh, that's beautiful. Wow, that's cool that you guys saw this, and thanks for sharing it with us. Oh, is that him rattling? Come check it out. He's rattling. So they were really cool about it, and weren't like the typical, people you expect, like, kill it. Yeah. Why didn't you run it over? But so yeah, we watched it crawl off into the forest, and then we're like, we'll take off and go back to Eric's house. And then as we're driving, these cops just come whipping by. We had to like pull off the side of the road, or they were just hauling to the scene or whatever. Oh, and while we were taking pictures of the car, we hear him getting chains out and like hooking up chains to the car and trying to pull it out. We're like, you idiots, don't do that. And of course, like his bumper fell off, and there's this horrible noise when he drove and stuff.
It's horrible noise.
You messed up your car.
No way, a horrible noise? Yeah. When you lose control at high speed and a dirt road?
Well, no, he was trying to pull the car out, and his car got jacked up. Trying to pull
his car got jacked up.
Yeah, and his was making the horrible noise.
Oh, my God.
But, like, her car, so apparently she hit a tree, went up the tree, and then broke the tree off, and then fell into the tree. So the tree is sticking through the car. Like, just...
What the hell?
Yeah, it was messed up. So... Yeah, it was a very eventful road cruising.
That's way extra than having to help that truck driver.
Right?
Way extra. Holy shit.
We're not going to forget that timber rattlesnake.
I don't even know if I'm like mad that I was there or wasn't there at that. Like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. It was pretty funny. But, well, not funny, I guess.
Not funny, but yeah, funny. I get it.
But that was a good end to the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, 4 timbers from our group. We, kind of spotted 4 timbers. I didn't see the first 2. I think Rob saw them. Maybe he wasn't with them, but they went back. So Chris and Aspen and Lindsay went back to that first 2, and they were back out again. So Nick and Ryan got to see those, and Nick got some pretty okay photos of the, kind of the ones crawling around, but they dipped down the burrow again too. Right. And then we waited for them, and then we saw that third one, the gravid female that I spotted under the tree, and then this 4th one on the road. So it was a good day of herping out there in the Barrens. That's pretty lucky to see a timber in the Barrens. So absolutely attributed to Mike. I mean, Mike knew, right. He'd seen him out there and knew where to look, and so he kind of showed us how to find him and stuff. So it's always, that discussion on sharing spots, Chris should have shouldn't have gone, because somebody's showing him a spot. He should have refused out of integrity.
Out of sheer principle.
That Chris just has no integrity.
Yeah. He compromises his principalities when the sites are involved.
But so it was really nice of Mike to show us those and take us out. He's just a all around just fantastic guy. It was really fun to herp with him. I really enjoyed that, putting a face to the name with him especially. Yeah. So that was great. A real Pine Barrens treat out there. So yeah. And then we went to the next day. We went out to the Poconos with Robert Seacaz and his 2 boys, and we got there again a little late. We went out and picked up Owen, so it was me and Rob and Eric and Owen, and then we drove. So it added a little bit of time. So Nick and Ryan beat us out there, so they were hanging out with the Seacaz family, and then they went to the first spot, and so we met them at the spot, and they were catching water snakes, and so Robert's boys would jump in, grab these huge water snakes out of the pond, and they were like just expert level catchers, so
nice.
It was pretty fun. And then
cool.
Robert and I were walking on kind of the end of the pond, and I saw one. I'm like, all right, let's see if I can do this, So I grabbed it and lifted it up. I think I got it too far down on the tail because like I thought I heard a pop or something, like it was squirming and stuff, and I had it by the tail, so that wasn't the best. So I hurried and kind of brought it up the body a little bit, got a nice schweeze on me. Those things stink. Yeah. But they're impressive snakes. They're really big bodied, these huge northern water snakes. So that was really fun to go catch those. And so I think his boys grabbed a couple, and then the one I got, so we had 3 out on the bank, that were photographing. One had like a missing eye. One was in shed, so its eyes were all blue and cool looking. And then the one I grabbed was, smaller. I think it might have been a male, and the other 2 were females, but
nice.
Who knows? But that was really cool. Just this little side of the road, pond, and we got several of these things and had fun catching them and photographing them. They were striking and stuff. Had that water snake attitude. So It was a lot of fun to mess with those. And then they took us to another spot, along a lake, and we found Owen spotted an eastern garter coming out of a hole. So I got to grab that thing. We saw some more frogs, leopard frogs, and then Nick spotted this tiniest snake. It was probably about the same size as that ringneck, maybe even smaller. It was and he spotted it was just crawling between his feet, like. I think he was, a couple people back. We were walking along this little grassed over pathway, and he spotted it just crawling through the grass, and he picked it up. It was just this tiniest little thing. So I believe it was a red-bellied snake. So,
nice.
Yeah, it was kind of hard to identify. It was so small, but Eric had his, Pennsylvania guide. So then we went to another spot that was by this waterfall, and there's this huge crack in a rock face. And you look in the crack, and there's like 6 or 7 snakes in there, just different levels, depths of the crack. There were a couple water snakes closer to the entrance because they knew they could kind of puff up and you couldn't really pull them out. We saw a couple more eastern milks in there. There was a ringneck, a large adult ringneck snake, and then those water snakes. And then there was a eastern garter as well that was kind of hanging out from a different crack that I saw, on the other rock. And so we had fun just kind of, trying to take pictures inside the crack and stuff like that. And I went up on top of the rocks, and there was this big water snake like hiding under a branch, just kind of hanging out there. So I slowly lifted the branch and got some pictures of that just hanging out on the rock. And then Rob grabbed it, and we brought it down and took some pictures, so like the waterfalls in the background with the snake on the rock. So got some cool like scenery pictures with him. And then Robert took us back to his house and fed us lunch, and we got to see his collection. He had some cool lizards, some of the Corytophanes, helmeted iguanas and stuff. So, and Kimberly rock monitors, but nice. He had some nice animals there. But just super cool guy, super gracious family, like really just a great family. So it was fun to hang out with them, and they fed us and just were super nice. So what a cool place and cool people. That's kind of what this whole trip was all about, just meeting good people and having that camaraderie. And then Owen took us to a spot where there's like this road that is sunk off into the river. It's like it's closed down, so the road's closed down, so you're walking down this road, and it's just covered with all this crazy graffiti and stuff. And so we went looking for copperheads. It started to rain. We got kind of lost off track. We're going up these bike trails that are like seriously steep, and then we have to come down these sketchy steep hills that are like mountain bike trails. We're like, where are you taking us, Owen? He missed the turn off to go to the climbing walls and stuff. And so we eventually found it, but it was kind of cold and dark and rainy, so we didn't see.
I thought those forest gorillas were supposed to be good navigators, dude.
Anything other than frogs, but yeah, I don't know. He needs to get back to his roots, his Mac and Wookiee roots.
He's too much of a city slicker.
Get more forest educated, I guess. Then the next day was the last day we were there, so we we decided to hit the copperhead spot one more time. And so we went down there, and it's like there's these signs saying beware of copperheads, they're everywhere around here. And so go looking again and hit the spots where they've seen them before. There's one picture that Eric has of this like artificial cover, and it's lifted up and there's like 5 copperheads stacked end to end, and so we go to that spot and I'm all anticipating, and I lift up the thing and there's nothing there. I'm like, dang it. So, and then but we came back and there was one in a crack in the rocks. And so I'm like, all right, we got one. At least Eric spotted it. And so I thought, the sun's going to hit that spot in about 30 minutes. Let's hang out and see if it moves once the sun kind of hits the rocks. And they're like, all right, it's worth a try. And so we kind of look around, finding some other stuff. But then a cop rolls up, and she's like, yeah, we got a call saying you guys are out, with looking in the rock cracks. I just need to make sure you're not collecting. Do you have any hooks or bags? I'm like, no, we're just taking pictures. Do you mind if I see your pictures? I'm like, no, knock yourself out. So I'm showing this cop lady some pictures on my phone or my camera of the birds and snakes and stuff. And she's like, all right, we just want to make sure you're not doing anything illegal. I'm like, no, ma'am, we're just here enjoying your wildlife.
Like she just wanted to look to make sure you didn't photograph yourself happening to do something illegal that would incriminate you. So yes. I don't understand what was happening there, but okay, whatever.
I didn't either.
No. Yeah. Like she couldn't do anything else. Job, so she's like, just let me look at your camera real quick. We'll call it deuces after that.
Yeah. And then she's like, can I talk to you?
Hey, that's me.
Oh. I didn't even say Pete call. What's going on here? All right. Well, it wouldn't be a show without a chime in from our old friend Ruby. So yeah, she's like, can I talk to I heard there were 2 people with you, and I'm like, yeah. She's like, where are they? And I'm like, over there. So they were walking towards us, and then I think they saw me talking to a cop, so they went and sat on a bench, and I'm like, I wish they would have just walked over here so you could get it over with. But So we had to walk over to them, and like she's like all asking them the same questions, and they gave the same answers, so she was appeased. And then she got cool, and she's like, oh, well, you got to check this spot and this spot. I've heard they're over here, but snakes are gross. I don't know why you weirdos are so gross. And like, okay, thanks. keep doing your job, lady.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was one of those fun little things of being profiled, because you
didn't just be like, yeah, but cops suck, so here we are. Like, what are you gonna do? No, I'm kidding. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. That is the wrong thing. That is 100% the wrong thing to do.
That Coast attitude.
Yeah,
you can't. It was good. So yeah, we waited, and then so I go back in the crack, and I'm like, oh, I don't see it, and they're like, it's right there. I'm like, guys, those are leaves. That's not there. And so we start looking around, and I look under this kind of, it's like a rock, and there's a big opening underneath the rock, kind of like a bench type thing. And I look in there, I'm like, oh, I see one. It's out. It's crawling around. And, its body was all, and it took me quite a while, like much longer than it should have, to notice its head was like closer to me than, the body I was staring at. And it was just had its head up, just like straight up. And it just looked like a leaf, man. It was like such good crypsis, like such amazing camouflage. And I was just like, wow, that is a cool snake. So we got to take, much better pictures than when it was in the crack, and got to see its body and, the pattern and everything. So that was really cool. So we spent, a good hour or two with the snake, just taking pictures and kind of watching it. And then it eventually crawled down another hole and disappeared. And there was another eastern garter snake coming out of a different crack in the rocks there. So the lem cracks paid off pretty nicely. Nice. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then we headed back to Eric's for a little swim and clean up, and got to bed early because it was, we went out to a nice dinner. Rob took everybody out to dinner, so that was nice of him. Got some seafood and stuff. And then to bed early because we had like a 6 a.m. flight, so we had to get up at like
crack of dawn.
Yeah, very early to make the drive in. And it was like, I think I woke up at 2:30 So that would have been 12:30 my time at home, and then we got home, and there was a delay.
Did you take the Schuylkill?
The Schuylkill?
Did you have to take the Schuylkill? The Schuylkill Expressway?
No. I don't know. We might have. I'd have to ask Eric. I was...
I feel like you'd know it if
not paying attention. Yeah. So, but it was a good time. It was really fun hanging out with Eric. Oh man, he had some funny stories. You'll have to ask him about his haircut. But
really, okay,
yeah, bizarre. But yeah, it was great hanging out with Eric and Owen and Rob and the rest of the crew. It was a lot of fun. Really good trip. So good. All right. Good first Carpet Fest. So. Sorry about taking
I was going to say, we are now at the 45-minute mark of Justin's commentary. So I was going to say, are we really doing the invasive species, or is this just the Carpet Fest recap show now?
Nah, we better fight a little bit.
All right, let's go then. Get out that coin.
Maybe this will just be an introduction. Yeah, and we can maybe delve into this another time as well, but this is an interesting topic. So, invasive species, can anything be done? Or is, it's just, that's the nature of things. And, and species get to places they shouldn't be and are invasive for a while, but then become part of the normal flora. So let's chat about that. Do you want to go ahead and
what are the sides here?
Yes, you can do something about invasive species, or no, there's really, why even bother? It's just,
I got it. All right, let's go. Let's go.
Okay.
Heads?
It is tails.
Shit.
You have lost the toss. I thought with getting a new quarter, I might lose my luck here, but okay. So, I'm going to go.
Why would you lose your luck when you just make it up? No, I'm not accusing. I'm just.
Every show.
That was just sore loserism. That was sore loserism talking. My bad. I'll retreat back to my corner.
We need to start doing a digital coin flip or something so I can show you.
So it's like.
So you can see it live, a little easier than a coin on a little tiny screen. I'm going to take the nay side. You can't do much about it. So.
You suck.
I do. Did you want that side?
I did.
We can swap if you want.
No, I'm not going to do that. That is not how I roll.
Sort of loserism.
Sir, I just was saying that was the side I would have picked.
Negative Chuck coming out to poo-poo.
That's not what I said. That's not what I said. All I said was that's the side I would pick if I had won the coin toss, but I fucking didn't, okay? I had lost. So right. I'm over
now I'm
here
being a sore winner.
In Loserville, just saying what I would have done had I been a winner. Is that? Can we just let me stew in that for a minute?
I guess we can. I guess. We'll
all right.
Indulge you
so I guess now I have to go first. So
with the side you didn't want.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is a rough deal for you. I really feel for you, man.
Well, I mean, I think that invasive species are kind of a tricky problem, right? Because we certainly can do things about invasive species, and there have been examples of invasive species that have maybe not necessarily been managed to the point where you don't have an invasive species, but they're certainly being managed so that they so their impacts are at least controlled, if not limited and reduced. Mm-hmm. But I think I will just say that, and it's a human. This is such a human problem because we have a global economy, global trade, and the ships, the planes, any transport that we're doing is taking on purpose and accidental hitchhikers that were never meant to leave their ecosystem, and we're giving them an Uber to a new ecosystem. So I don't know, as long as we're around, how we're going to fix that problem.
It is a very difficult problem, and I think a lot of times there's unbalanced focus on like the pet trade and their hand in this, but I mean in that there is a point to that, right? So there's a lot of stuff Florida's just kind of ruined with all the fish, plants. I mean, it's not just reptiles. There's all sorts of invasive. Humans are probably the worst invasive species in Florida, where they've just changed the whole landscape. So it's like, what are you protecting? You know, why do you care if there's a Burmese python there when it's not natural in the first place? What is it going to eat? The tegus or the green iguanas, that kind of thing. It's like all these other invasive species. But, it's an easy target for the politicians and the animal rights groups and stuff to tackle these big, scary pythons,
Sure.
But so, I guess a lot of invasive species are not an issue, like maybe the mourning geckos or the house geckos that seem to just find their way into every, tropical area around the world. It's
they're just go anywhere. Great generalists.
Just hanging out on the wall, eating bugs. Yep. It's not a big deal. They're not really impacting the environment. So, of course, nobody's going to...
At least not in a way that we are...
that we're aware of, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of the... You would have... I mean, if you believe what you're taught in school, anything that isn't have a check in its environment... And maybe they do. Maybe there's stuff that'll take them out, and they're just kind of now a competing species, with something else.
I think one of the biggest, arguments towards not really doing much about invasive species is the fact that the environment usually adapts to them in some way. Either negatively, like just species go extinct and then you don't have to worry about the invasive species because the species of concern is already gone, which is probably the worst case scenario, of course. And then others like maybe the cane toad where, animals learn like I don't eat this thing because it's very poisonous, and if I try to eat it, I die or get really sick. And so they, you see a huge decline initially, but then kind of a slow buildup of the species that were impacted. And it actually, they've shown, Shine's studies have shown in a lot of examples of cane toads actually helping different species, like killing off the large predators. So things like, the pig-nosed turtles and things like that have actually an increase in their population numbers.
Yeah, because it can't all be negative for everybody, right? Exactly. Because, it certainly certainly something introduced is going to be negative for somebody, but that means somebody's going to benefit from it, right? Yeah. So I think, oh, come now. I think in the game there's always winners and losers, right? And I think an invasive just represents kind of an imbalance to the system, and so will the system adapt and change or work its way out? Yeah, absolutely, it will. Yeah. But you're talking about disturbed ecosystems and ecosystems that, like in San Diego, if we got invasive species are highly impactful just because we're very specialized here, right? Like a lot of the flora and fauna are highly dependent on each other and are highly specialized for this environment. So when something comes in there and disrupts that, it can have huge impacts.
Yeah. Other examples of that are like islands, like New Zealand and all the invasives there.
Yeah. And so, I think to your point, I mean, it can have, is an invasive species the end of an ecosystem? Absolutely not. Nope, not one bit. It's going to march on. Things will be okay, but it will be forever changed. It won't be the same ecosystem. And, once you disturb an ecosystem, it never goes back. You can't get it back. It never goes back. So maybe that goes to your point too. Like, why are you so worried about preserving something that's always going to change but never go back?
I mean, the world. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, the world's gone through countless cycles of change, and and so I mean, to say that we don't have the same Earth that was here 10 million years ago or 100 million, those changes. I mean, they're sometimes catastrophic. Huge extinction events. Now, the only difference between the one now is a lot of it is man made, but what's the difference really of some tree getting blown over and floating out to an island, and a new colonist is taking advantage. The
only difference I would say is probably the time scale that it's happening.
Sure,
we're compressing. As human, anytime technology and humans get involved, we compress those time scales
and
way
the speed
down.
Of travel and things like that.
And so that can be that's kind of, to me, that is kind of the same thing as climate change stressing an animal or a plant's ability to change fast enough to keep up with its changing environment. And kind of the same thing, like how quickly we can inundate a pristine area with invasive issues, and in that compressed time scale, what does that do to the animal's ability in that ecosystem to adapt to it? Same idea, right? Same kind of concept.
Exactly. And I think regardless, I mean, I think I look at the cost of saving species, and this is maybe another topic, but the fact that extinctions occur, even
Absolutely.
if they're man driven, it's kind of a bummer. There was something. There's some locust that used to be in the West that there was one time somebody observed a cloud of locusts flying by for like a solid. Like a cloud of millions upon millions of these things floating by for probably 45 minutes. Endless supply. And now that species is extinct, and I believe it was, anthropogenic destruction of the species because it was a pest species or whatever. And so, you'll those kind of things are a bad example of human footprint on the earth. Sometimes the passenger pigeon, they never thought it would be even possible to bring those to extinction just because they were so plentiful, so adaptable. But then, they hunted them to extinction, and then all of a sudden they're gone, and you have no more passenger pigeons. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, I guess. But now we're much more conscientious of those kind of things, even to the point of telling other countries what they can and can't do, because we need to preserve your wild heritage, and they're like, we just want to make a buck and survive and eat food like you did to your country, kind of thing. But we saw what we did to our country, and we don't want that to happen around the world. So it's kind of a hard sell sometimes, to tell people, hey, value your ecosystems and your nature, and I think some countries have done that nicely, like Costa Rica. I mean, then it turns it into kind of a tourist country where people come to see the wildlife because they've done such a good job at preserving it, whereas some of their neighboring countries have not really done that, and they've destroyed a lot of their natural forests and don't have those revenue sources because people don't come there as much to see the wildlife because it's all gone, so you kind of lose out on that. And it's hard to see that while you're developing, because to develop, a lot of times you got to cut down trees and those kind of things. And I mean, we definitely impacted North America here and changed the landscape forever in a lot of ways. I mean, the huge buffalo herds are no more, and the passenger pigeons are no more, and those kind of things. So it's kind of sad to see that happen. And man, what I wouldn't give to go herp Australia before the cane toad got there, to see untouched, pristine areas without cane toads. But that's not going to happen, and so, and the enormous cost. I think I heard there was an Australian researcher that was working on saving I think it was McFadden, really cool guy. I met him at a symposium one time, but he was working on saving like the Christmas Island. There was like a skink and an endemic gecko that were out there that they were trying to save. And it costs like an enormous amount of money to keep the genetic diversity and a population large enough, indoors in climate controlled, environment. Just cost a tremendous amount of money. And it's like, at what point do we just say, well, they had a good run. This is part of nature's cycle. Even if we're accelerating it, some things go extinct. I know that's kind of a terrible, pessimistic.
I think that's the easy thing for the dominant species on the planet to say.
Sure. I mean, we've had our close calls, I think, with extinction, like the Black Plague, and taking out a big chunk of the population, and even something small like the COVID pandemic. That was a little scary there for a bit, and took out a good chunk. Well, not too huge a chunk, but a pretty good sized chunk of our population.
It killed a lot of people.
Maybe a 300th of the population.
Yeah.
So not quite a third. That would be pretty catastrophic.
Yeah.
But, so those kind of things do occur, and they're part of the, I guess, natural cycle, if you want to call it that. So the flu of 1912 or those kind of things, 1918. Yep. 1918 pandemic. So, crazy stuff has occurred to the dominant species as well.
Yeah. Well,
but I do think, there's definitely a place for management, and, I'm not totally against stepping in and trying to help things remain natural. It's just really hard to find examples of that happening and working. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like much ado about nothing. You spend all this money, put in a huge fence or something, and it doesn't stop it. It just kind of like wastes money and makes you feel good at the time,
Well, but...
Hey, Chuck, I got a question. Can we save the rhinos? Can we save the rhinos?
Ask Jeff.
Jeff told me, he said we could. What do you think? No.
I say rhino.
You see some of this, and it's almost functionally extinct already.
It is.
We're down
definitely
to so few numbers.
The white rhino has been functionally extinct for a long time.
Yeah.
You get down to a certain point and genetic bottlenecking will absolutely take care of the rest of it. And that happened long ass time ago with the white rhino. And, we do the best we can to try to keep the species on the planet as long as we can. But let's be honest, it's because we fucked it up. We feel guilty. And we're doing the best we can to keep it around. And, it's expensive. That's a made-up thing, too. So money is not a real thing. It's a made-up concept that we brought into reality. And
sometimes I think they do kind of protect things to death. Like, especially, there's a lot of examples of that in Australia. Their native wildlife is going extinct. And there are plenty of hobbyists and keepers that would love to keep these endangered animals, but they are not allowed to. So basically, the government is saying, we're cool with them going extinct as long as nobody can have them as a pet. It's like, and if they just let people, work with them in captivity, they could produce and I'm talking mammals. Like, there's a lot of mammals that are going extinct over there that could be bred in captivity by people who are passionate about it, who put their own funds into it. They don't need a grant to do this. They're going to do it because they like the animals. But then, are you really saving them, or are they just becoming
do you think
pets,
a lot of governments look at the potential problems that they may have to endure if they go to a system that allows everybody to,
much easier to say no, and just let them go extinct.
As a federal government employee, the default answer is no.
Yeah, because we know better, and you're going to mess it up anyway. Nope. So, but it's kind of hard to feel bad, for, I don't know, some of these government entities, when people are poaching and smuggling and stuff. And you're like, well, if you had a legal channel, that probably wouldn't be a problem. It would probably go away.
Yeah, and I mean, and look,
other than things like rhino horn or elephant tusk or something.
But I think there's species that have been bred and reintroduced, and their populations rebounded. They were branded a success story, but the issue is a lot of the drivers that are causing, species to go extinct or whatever are still happening, right? So it kind of hey man, we talked about this. I'll be right back. Sorry.
I mean, unless you can kind of take out the root cause or the issue, and I mean, if an animal's worth more dead than alive, and then it's going to be very hard to stop it, especially if you have a desperate community that is going to take out to try to stop poachers from killing rhinos when their horns are worth so much money. I've heard some interesting thoughts on let's introduce them to Texas. Let's release a bunch of rhinos into Texas and let them reproduce and do their thing there, and let the poachers try to come and get them in Texas. We'll shoot.
See, but this is funny because I was just going to say we're talking about now we're talking about poaching and animals, and we're not talking about the invasive species. But then boom, right when we thought we weren't talking about it, you bring it back to let's bring a bunch of those animals to Texas and let them loose, and we have no issue with that. I mean, if you listen to the tiger statistic about how many tigers there are in Texas or whatever, I just I think that and governments still introduce species. I think, and I shouldn't say this because every time I think stuff like this, I'm usually wrong. I think we might have learned the lesson to not use invasive species to treat a problem somewhere. Yeah. I feel like we've learned that lesson, but I don't think I don't know that we truly.
I witnessed a recent one. I think we learned to do more trials, maybe.
We're just more careful about fucking it up.
I saw a pretty good example of a good species use of an invasive species to control another invasive species, and that was this is kind of going to your point, but we were down on the Colorado River. We were going to run the river, right? And we were waiting for the boat to get there with our friends. They were coming a different way. And so we're sitting on the banks of the river, and we hear just this munching, right? And there's all this invasive tamarisk that is, from the Middle East. It was planted to kind of help keep riverbanks from eroding, but it's just taken over the Southwest. It grows all around, all along any river system and stuff, and actually sucks up a lot of the water. And so you poor Californians don't get any of the Colorado River because it all, gets sucked up by tamarisk along the way or something.
Well,
other things.
So a lot of the stuff that they're ripping out in Anza Borrego, in the Anza Borrego Desert, it's all tamarisk.
Yeah. It's an invasive that's just made its way across.
It's not good. Yeah,
it's not good, and it takes up a lot more than the native willows do. And the willows have been out competed by the tamarisk, and man, you get some huge tamarisk forests. Like I always thought they were stringy little, willow like things, but they can get big tree trunks, along the big rivers. But so they found this beetle that only feeds on tamarisk, like it's its only source of food, and it won't eat anything else. It just dies. And so, of course, they did a lot of trials and trying to figure out if that was the case, and they tried to feed it all these native plants, and it would just die rather than eat those plants. And so they did a release, and it was like a fire had gone through. They just ate all the tamarisk. And then they just kind of died off. And the tamarisk in the section where they release these beetles is all dead and had a hard, and I need to go down to that area again and see if it had a lasting effect, if the willows are coming back in, or if the tamarisk are actually gone, and if they have to keep doing that year after year, releasing more beetles to chew on the tamarisk. They said something like, if you did that 3 years in a row, then they would be gone. And if the funding for that project goes away, then
then the whole thing dries up.
The whole thing falls apart. Exactly. Or if it starts, or if it, one little beetle adapts and starts eating the willows instead, and you're like, okay, now we just caused another problem.
See, and that's the thing is we're screwing around with dynamic systems, like things that don't stay static, and they when you change, they change. It's like that's how it kind of works. So,
but you also think maybe if there's enough tamarisk, they could just kind of be a beneficial invasive species, that's around and chewing on tamarisk. So at least it keeps it in a somewhat of a controlled. Who knows? It's probably impossible to completely root it out and dig it out. My least favorite invasive species has got to be cheatgrass, man. That stuff that gets in your socks, I hate it so badly. And it's just all over the Southwest as well. Brought in by cattle, Another invasive species that we've spread across the earth to make our hamburgers and things. And they taste wonderful, but Ruby is having her fun. But she telling us it's time to be done, or do you have any other
I don't know.
Points?
She heard hamburger and
time to eat. Yeah. But I don't know. It's hard to be positive when you have so few good examples of this working out,
and I think that's the problem is there's a lot of examples of it going badly, but there's not a lot of examples of, good outcomes with invasives.
I think almost the best hope would be to fence off like areas of good habitat and kind of have little preserves. Now that doesn't do much for megafauna. It might be okay in like New Zealand where you have geckos and, small marsupials, or not marsupials there, but whatever bird species that you can kind of fence off and protect or put on an island and keep.
I just don't think the world works like that. You just can't.
It's really difficult.
Nothing is really ever fenced off. You know.
I mean, like I said, there are some good examples of that in New Zealand where they've have like a tuatara preserve where they fenced areas off and kept the rats out, so the tuataras are doing okay. Or islands where they've eradicated the rats on the island because it's a small enough area you could get every rat on the island, which is very difficult.
You're just saying that they've done well at managing some of those things. Yeah.
But I mean, every hike we did, there were stoat traps and rat traps. They're still trying to control them, but you'd see them.
Sure.
You'd be driving along, see a ferret bound across the road in New Zealand. You're like, Dad, come. It was not cool to see the invasives over there.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's nothing like it was back in the day. I mean, that was like ground bird paradise. There's so many different ground bird species, and they've all kind of gone the way of the dodo. A lot of them anyway. So it's really tragic to see. But, I guess who's to say that wouldn't have been the case even if without human intervention? Maybe something floats over or, makes its way over.
Well, I mean, I think you're always going to have the more you disturb a system, the faster things like this happen. And we are disturbing a system because there's just so much of us at such an alarming rate that it's just like, it's like that little wheel on your power thing when your Chevy Chase Christmas lights are on. It's just like spinning,
You just fly a helicopter off of there. And
exactly what you can do. It's creating lift. That's correct.
Yeah. I have a hard time because you hate the cane toads for what they've done, but the cane toads are fine where they're from,
Yep.
And I could never bring myself to kill them. Like everybody's like, run it over, and I'd like, I missed it. Sorry. I wouldn't feel bad if I missed it. It's hard because, the damage they're doing. And I don't, think that's necessarily the wrong thing to do, to help kind of do your part to control an invasive species. I pulled the freaking cheatgrass out of my socks and I break up the seed. I'm like, you will never make a plant.
Take that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I ground that thing to powder. So I don't feel bad about that. I don't feel bad about, stepping on a lantern.
Yeah. So why? Yeah, exactly.
So why should I feel bad about?
Exactly.
I guess I like reptiles and amphibians, so it's hard, because it's not really their fault. The toad didn't ask to be put there. It was our stupid fault. So, I don't know. It's a tricky one. I do see both sides of that, and I understand why. There does need to be some control because, there's literally some places that are just crawling with toads in east coast of Australia. And they're making their way over to the Kimberley. And, they have found some ways to kind of control or slow down the spread of the cane toad or reduce their numbers, which is good. And actually some pretty unique and ingenious ways of slowing down the toads, and hopefully those things are effective in practice, and they don't cost too terribly much. We've seen putting bounties on things doesn't always help that much. You could over there buy like these like coin purses that were made out of toad leather. A lot of times they'd have the head on there or something. I thought that was a little gruesome, but it's like, hey, if there's a resource and you can make some money off of it.
Baby, nice purse.
Right.
That's cane. Is that pure cane toad?
Well, it was pretty nice leather. I don't know how much they had to process it or if they got all the poison out of it, but it's pretty nice leather. One of the craziest, like, backwards things I've heard, there was this invasive water plant in a national park in the United States. And people, I believe from Cambodia or a country in Southeast Asia, that was a plant they were used to eating in their home, in their native lands or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so they were going into the national parks, harvesting this invasive weed, with their own time and effort, bringing it home, eating it, and then the national park found out they were collecting a plant from the national park, so they put the kibosh on it and said, no more harvest, and then all the waterways got choked with this invasive weed. It's like, you had a free source of weed control and removal, but you stopped it because it was technically against the rules of the park. It seems kind of backwards,
Yeah.
But
eat your weeds, folks. Eat your weeds.
Well, and again, on that, like you have people going in the Everglades to hunt pythons, but a snake is a snake to a lot of people. So they see a big, pine snake or bull snake or something, they're going to shoot it and say, I got a python. They're not necessarily discriminating against, other species that are native and natural there. So I don't know. It's a tricky question.
It's a shit show.
Yeah. Well, here we are. So we figure it out?
I don't think so.
Okay. I think we may have to revisit this.
We might.
I'm sure we missed a lot of points, and I'm sure a few of you out there are yelling at your computers or your phones or whatever you're listening to.
Or have turned this off
ago. Yeah. After my 45
maybe they were like, yeah, we're cool with the Carpet Fest episode. We're out.
Yeah. Hey, that's all right. We appreciate your listening.
So treat it like a part 1, part 2 episode if that's what you did.
Maybe so. Yeah, we can have some more insight in this down the road. Yeah, chime in if you feel we missed some things. Let us know and we'll have you on. So, all right. Well, what do we? You got anything else for us? Any other final thoughts on this topic, or have we kind of exhausted our efforts?
No, it's tough, man. It's kind of a soup sandwich out there, and so I don't think you should be too dogmatic on this topic one way or the other.
It's really hard to show the efforts really go to much success. So
of course, I would love to keep things.
Try?
That's true too.
Question. Yeah. Okay. Well, any interesting reptile news you've heard or things?
No. Yeah, I have not had much time for reptile news. I've kind of been out of it a
little bit, trying to catch up with work after the trip, so I haven't really looked too much. But trying to think if I've seen anything cool lately. I haven't been listening to a lot of reptile podcasts. I did listen to Eric and Owen talk about Carpet Fest on NPR, as well as Carpets and Coffee. So check that out for more stories of Carpet Fest if you didn't get enough from
Didn't get a full recap from our earlier episode.
Exactly. I kind of wanted them to kind of do it first, so I'm glad they got that information out there already. So,
but not to be outdone, Justin followed up with a thorough.
You didn't get it from my perspective, right?
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Isn't it funny too when you're listening to stories and you're like, wait, I don't remember happening that way. I see it.
It is interesting, like how whether that's how you remember, how they remember, how do we all remember that way, or is that just But you're right. You're sure right.
One I got to clear up for sure is I was listening to Venom Exchange Radio and Nish talked about our trip to Utah, and he recorded it incorrectly. I just want to clear the record here, Nipper. When we were coming back across the river in central Utah, when we went to the Lutosis area and found our first Lutosis of the trip, on the way back across the river, I was the one that didn't step in the river, not Dustin. All right, let's clear that up. I kept my feet dry, and I had a good laugh because Dustin beat me earlier in the trip in a canyon. We were trying to stay on the walls of the canyon and not get our feet wet, and I slipped and fell in and got a foot wet in Little Wild Horse Canyon, whereas Dustin stayed dry. But in that canyon, crossing the river, I was the one that stayed dry. Dustin fell in with the rest of you, so I didn't want to be. I wanted to set the record straight. Sorry for Venom Exchange. He had a misremembering of that event. So, yeah, and also the fact that I'd seen plenty of specs in Utah, as have Chris and Aspen, so it wasn't a lifer for everybody there. So I'd already seen. It was my first one that I'd found by myself. So that was, I guess, a first time type thing. But clearing the air.
You done, Julinder?
Yeah.
Get it off your chest.
Getting my pettiness over with.
That's a record straight.
I'm sure
no.
Nipper doesn't even listen to us, does he?
Sir, you deserve to be represented factually, functionally.
You're hired. You're my new lawyer. You'll get me the compensation I deserve.
That's correct. Yeah. I will chase them to the ends of the earth to get your money.
We'll see you in court, Nipper. You think you can run your mouth off and say that I fell in the river? Wait, what's that called? Where you badmouth somebody to the detriment of their
slander.
Image? Slander. That is slander, my friend.
If you write it, it's libel.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank
That'll
you.
be $100.
You're a good
Justin.
lawyer. Yeah, you can
That's
bill.
Correct.
Actually, just bill Nipper. We're gonna get the settlement.
Just start billing
just
Nipper.
bill
He starts getting bills. Like, what the hell?
Who's this Chuck, attorney at law? What's going on here? I don't know any attorney named Chuck.
This is bullshit. This is not a lawyer. I know him.
He can't bill me. All right. Well, Nipper, watch for the bill is in the mail.
Yeah, check's in the mail, Nipper.
All right. Well, I think this has been a fun discussion. So thanks for tuning in, and thanks to Eric and Owen and the NPR umbrella for housing us and keeping us dry in this wet area, the podcast arena. that may have fallen apart halfway through.
I think that fell apart.
But we sure do appreciate you, Podfather, and we pay homage to you here. So thanks for listening, and we'll have another one for you soon.
Oy vey.
Fight Club.